Yeah. This is the only way we survive this thing.
Give me 2 minutes and I'll get into the rhythm and then I'm there.
Brings me Saturday. Because I really want to be inspirational. Like I don't want it to be a boring discussion. I want some like energy, some fun.
Yeah. We'll bounce off each other, we'll make it a conversation. It'll be fine.
And so far, we've had conversations. So,
Our mics aren't on yet. Hello? Okay, you got. Okay. Hi. Welcome to HIAA's Talk and Grow for Creatives panel discussion on the role of international voices in art. Just to let everybody know, we're filming this event and it will be live streamed on Lucan's YouTube channel. Only those on stage will be filmed though. However, your sound will be recorded, so your voice may be recorded if you are speaking. And just to explain a little, this event is organised as a collaboration between Helsinki International Artists Association, HIAA, and Lucan Cultural Centre. HIAA is excited to be hosting its second Talk and Grow for Creatives event, which includes this panel discussion and the workshops that are going on today as well, and the market. We are grateful to Lucan for their support and help with this event. So some housekeeping first. This event follows Safer Spaces guidelines to highlight every HIAA event and activity is a discrimination-free and a harassment-free zone. Do not assume anything, ask, listen and discuss. Treat every individual with dignity and respect. Act honestly, truthfully, and with integrity. Avoid aggressions during discussion on conflicting views. Every disagreement can be solved peacefully. Be transparent and accountable for all your actions. If you face any issues or experience any violations of these guidelines, please contact the HIAA board. They are located in the space and they have name tags on. The SSG responsible person today is Maria. She's standing over here. She's got a pink scarf on. And she's wearing a black and white dress. With this in mind, I come from a culture of very fast speakers. So sometimes I need reminding to slow down. You are very welcome to interrupt me at any point to tell me to slow down. That's totally fine. I have no problem with that at all. The most important thing is that you understand the discussion and the conversation we're having. Okay. Oh yes, the event is also going to be photographed, so there will be a photographer going around the space. If at any time during the event you'd rather not have your image photographed, you can just let us know or let Maria know. They will review the photographs at the end and make sure that your face isn't seen in them, okay? So everybody happy with that? Some other information, the toilets are located outside the door here, and then you go down the stairs and they're on the left-hand side as you go down the corridor. To elaborate a little bit on the live streaming and the filming for this event, we will not be taking questions online for this event. Only those on stage will be filmed, as I said. The sound will be recorded, so audience members that speak during the discussion, just bear in mind that your voice will be recorded and live streamed, but not your face. The recording will end just before the Q&A session. For the Q&A section, we will have a mic that will be going around the space, I believe. Maria will be able to hold the mic, and if you put your hand up, she'll come over to you and you can ask the questions for the panel. Okay. So just to introduce the topic a little. Art fosters communication and connection across multiple perspectives and backgrounds. Intrinsically, art has the ability to convey emotions, histories and identities, marginalized perspectives and intergenerational experiences. These connections create the opportunity for mutual understanding across cultures and beyond borders. Art has the capacity to break down barriers, question the status quo, amplify marginalized voices, and build bridges between individuals and communities. Internationalization in our art world broadens creative perspectives and encourages criticality, creating a more compassionate and empathetic society overall. However, in recent years, the sector has experienced the contradictory messaging of supporting internationalisation within the arts while eroding the mechanisms that allow for that to happen. Through restricted international access across its borders and adverse living conditions for creative individuals with various backgrounds. This eroding of the sector has affected international creatives living here in significant ways. Our aim with this panel is to explore the ways in which internationalisation supports creative practice, how international voices and practices are shaping art in this country, and what supportive mechanisms are in place for international voices now. With this topic, we wish to explore how to build sustainable ways of diversifying our creative field going forward and where to turn for advice. This panel is bringing together diverse voices from multiple backgrounds who have impactful contributions to the field. They will share their thoughts on the importance of international perspectives in shaping the arts in Finland. So let's begin by introducing our panelists. Right beside me, we have Emma Beverley, who is the director of HIAP, that's Helsinki International Artist Programme. Let me know about yourself.
And at any point, I might mistake this with HIAA and HIAP, so forgive me if I get my words mixed up. I'm a little bit nervous, but it's really nice to see you all. And I've been here in Finland now just under 2 years. I moved here from the UK to take on this role as director of the Helsinki International Artist Programme. Before that, I was actually, for many years, a freelance producer and curator, mainly working with artists based in the UK to work internationally. And I've led a couple of other organisations, but HIAP has always had a very special place in my heart even before I moved here, because it's a really well-known globally artist residency centre. And we operate from 2 locations. We have our original base, which is at Cable Factory, where we have 3 live-work artist studios. And then we have our main base, which is on Suomenlinna. And on Suomenlinna, we have 9 live-work artist studios and a gallery and a wood workshop and a really nice community room and library space, which you're all very welcome to come and use whenever you would like. Please get in touch with us. And annually, we support anywhere between 50 to 75 artists a year to undertake residencies. They are local artists and international artists. We also have a gallery programme where we have about 4 to 5 exhibitions a year, and we deliver a series of different thematic projects as well. So we have a new project that we're launching this year with BioArt Society, Swamp, the Artist Recycling Materials Bank, Koine Programme, and Tuotoro residency called the Learn Materials. If any of you are interested in materiality and working with biomaterials and thinking about sustainability within your work, this is a really interesting project to have a look at. And we have a few networks that we coordinate and that we're part of. So we coordinate the FIRA network, which is the Finnish Artist Residency Network. FIRA is a great network to have a look at if you want to do residencies in Finland. There's about 70 residencies listed on the website there that all have various open calls and ways you can interact with them. We coordinate the Ukraine Solidarity Residency Programme, which supports a number of artists who are living and working in Ukraine and outside of Ukraine to come and do residencies here in Finland. And we're part of a couple of international networks that are relevant to this conversation. So the Res Artists Network, which is one of the longest standing residency networks internationally, and also On the Move, which is a European network that focuses on artist mobility and particular issues that are facing, that artists are facing in international mobility. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Emma. Okay, next we have Veronika Gramotina. You are the executive manager at Blue Verve Art Gallery. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see some new and familiar faces. I am Veronika. I'm a visual artist who has been in Finland over 10 years. But in the arts, I'm quite a freshman still myself. And with my friend, we opened the Blue Verve Art Gallery to provide the highest quality experience to Finnish community, to the artists, to the general public, to art collectors. And our aim is to inspire people. So hopefully it's something that we will do today with this panel discussion. Of course, it's important to know all the dark side of the Finnish art scene, but let's be positive, let's focus on what we can do. Yeah.
Sure, solution finding is very important. Okay, next we have Anna Stankevich. You are the supporting board member of HIAA. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so today I am representing HIAA, but as myself, I am a practicing visual artist and illustrator with background in design. I spent a long time in working in London before moving here, and I've now been in Finland, I think it's been 8 years. And for the past 5 years, I've been a board member of the Helsinki National Artists Association, helping to organize the exhibitions, the markets, and to build up and support this community. I think when I joined in 2021, we had something like 75 members. And Maria can correct me, but I think now we have, is it 175 or more? 192. Okay, great. So it's been a very rewarding experience for me to be a part of that.
And I am Emma Clear. I'm the panel moderator for this discussion. I'm an Irish-born visual artist and culture worker practicing in Finland. I hold an MA in Visual Cultures, Curating and Contemporary Art from Aalto University and a BA and a diploma in Fine Art from the UK and Ireland. My creative practice specialises in contemporary drawing and installation art that embodies feminist care practices. My career practice has focused on advocacy in the art sector, working towards a more supportive and ethical art field that encompasses multiple and diverse voices. Okay, so let's dive into the questions. The first question is for Veronika. For those that are new to the Finnish art scene, how does it operate, or how do you see it being structured?
Well, the Finnish art scene is quite small. And compared to some larger art markets, art scenes in like UK or US, this Finnish art scene is not driven by sales, it's not driven by the market, but mostly grant-based. And this is something that we will discuss today later about the grant possibilities. And usually Finnish art scene operates in two staples. One is the public institutions, and another one is some independent art galleries, independent artist communities. Yeah, if somebody has something else to add to the structure.
Yeah, we can go into that a little bit further later on as well. I believe it'll come up in the topics. How do you see international voices and working processes shaping the art world here? So, international voices.
I think that one of the things when I moved to Helsinki specifically that I was really surprised by actually was how present the international artist community is here. It's definitely the community that when I first arrived, I managed to access quite quickly, and I felt very welcomed. And actually, one of the first networking events that I came to was with Globe Art Point in this space, so it's really nice to be back here. And I could really see actually that there's a very present, a very visible international arts community in Finland, and a very active one as well. I suppose the reason why for me that felt surprising in many respects is because possibly the international view of Finland. So when you're working in the kind of international art scene and you think about Finland and the art sector that's there, you don't necessarily think it is very diverse actually and very international. So for me, this was something that I thought that an organization like HIAP could really start to work with and think about in the way that Finland as a market or as an art sector really communicates and promotes itself. And I think that one of the things that I'm trying to regularly think about now in terms of what HIAP's position is and what our purpose is how we can really contribute to that promotion, to telling people worldwide actually there's an incredibly diverse arts community here, and there's lots of different ways that you can interact and engage with them. And I think that associations like HIAA and also organisations like Globe Art Point in particular, they're quite unique. It's not necessarily the case that in lots of different places that you have these associations or these structures which are just there purely to facilitate and support those international arts communities. In many respects, in terms of the kind of, was it the importance or the kind of the presence was the question?
Yeah, the importance of international voices and like how they're shaping the working processes here. Like how do they sort of like help to diversify fields from, let's say, Finnish-born people to understanding cultures from multiple perspectives?
Yeah, I think that because of all of that, actually, there is quite a lot of ways in which the international arts community are influencing and are advocating for themselves. And that was very positive for me to see, because it is not the case, actually, in many places. But perhaps there's still... or at least as I see it and understand it, there is still this challenge of bringing together, you said, Finnish-born arts community and the international arts community. And quite a lot of the ways in which the structures exist is it's almost that we're very separate from one another. So being in an environment like HIAP, where we have lots of Finland-based and international arts communities coming together to do these residencies for 1 month, 3 months, 11 months, however it is, you can really see the benefit of what happens when you're bringing together people from all of these different places. And I'm hopeful that actually there will be more opportunities in which some of these kind of invisible or very visible barriers or boundaries sometimes between these different arts communities will start to merge together. I suppose one of the challenges with that, and this is what comes up a lot, is around the language and the way in which that Finnish, Swedish and other national languages here seem very prevalent in a lot of the dialogue about international arts workers and artists and what their needs are. And I'm just hopeful that we just start to move past that, because it feels like a bit of a sticking point that maybe isn't always so necessary, actually, for us to get too wrapped up in. But it still feels like it's quite early days in many respects to try and move past this language issue that comes up very often.
Yeah, it can be a bit of a barrier, I suppose, the language. There's a lot of requests, I think, from like different types of positions and roles in the field where being multilingual is really important, but at the same time that isn't always the case, and it doesn't always have to be like that.
Yeah, I think like one big example at the moment is this dialogue that's happening around writers' associations and writers' unions here in Finland, and the requirement for you to write as a literature-based artist in Finnish or in Swedish to join those unions. I think it's these types of rules that are particularly outdated and need to be really addressed and looked at. But I'm very hopeful about it, because actually there are many workplaces now in Finland that you don't need to speak Finnish or Swedish in order to be able to work there. There are organisations that are really embracing being multilingual organisations, and I feel like I got here at a good time from that point of view. It feels like these are discussions that people want to have and are trying to push through.
And just to elaborate a little bit on one of the points that you brought up about the supports that seem to be happening for international people here, I think that the information flow I notice from the moment I moved here it's a bit difficult. I come from a culture where information flows very quickly. People talk an awful lot, and they're very willing to sort of like share information that they might have, or at least try and help people to find the information that they might be looking for. And so what you're saying about like HIAA and about Globe Art Point in particular, and other organisations that work with international people, is that these are situations where like trying to like help create that flow of information. It is difficult to find information in Finland. It's difficult to navigate the structures here, and this is why we hold these conversations, and this is why we have such a great panel on at the moment talking about this, is to try and help share information, try and help get the flow of conversation and communication happening all the way around. So with that question, or with that in mind, Anna, how do you think art can be a tool for dialogue between multinational artists and audiences?
Well, primarily, art is about connection, right? So that in that way, I think it's a very important tool, because it connects people regardless of, you know, the languages they speak. Like you mentioned languages, I mean, art connects you no matter what language you speak. It connects across cultures as well, because, you know, when you see an art piece, like, you can have that emotional connection no matter which, you know, was the culture of the artist or the culture of the audience. And that's why I think it's so important to have more international voices to kind of to provide those, like, different perspectives, to bring those different experiences, so that the people locally can kind of interact with that. So yeah, I mean, in my experience, like, it's I've been in multiple collaborative projects which have focused on connection through art. For example, projects that combine science and art. So a way for scientists to kind of have their work be interpreted by artists, and in that way kind of translated also to a wider audience, make it more understandable that way, because the emotional connection is how we can understand things better.
Yeah, I think there's a way where it can flatten, like, let's say, hierarchies, you know, so that, and the differences in language, even within, like, one spoken language. So, for example, you know, you were saying about, like, the scientific collaborations that, you know, there's specific language within science, you know, and it isn't just like an English or a Finnish, like, there's a language within science where words have a different meaning. And I suppose what I've experienced with these, like, these ways of creating that involve multidisciplinary as well as multicultural, like, collaborations, is that language can kind of fall away, and, like, because words have multiple meanings depending on their situation, that it, you know, it has this way of, like, deepening and understanding when you do an artistic practice that can kind of, like, go beyond, like, the surface level of communication.
Yes, and it makes things more accessible.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. So just to go back again to, like, language. How important is it to speak Finnish or Swedish to integrate into the art scene, do you think, Veronika?
Well, I believe that speaking Finnish and Swedish is, of course, important, and it is like a big advantage here in Finland. But I also believe that if you make effort, it shouldn't be the problem. Like, the lack of knowledge shouldn't be the problem. So I'm always, like, trying to stay positive, never giving up, and this is what I advise to all of you. Just make the effort, and I'm sure that the language will not be there to stop you. Because, as you have mentioned, that art is all about connection, and, like, you can connect to people in very different ways. And this is basically what we do at the Blue Verve, because we bring very diverse crowd there, very international crowd, and we we connect this crowd to Finnish art scene, like Finnish-based art scene, like those people who usually maybe a little bit reserved and not always come to some international events, but in here they feel, like, comfortable, they feel connected. So yeah.
And this might not be your area at all, but, like, when people are making applications, even within the art world, for, like, let's say, positions within organizations, often it says you need to have 3 languages. Do you think we could, people who don't, like myself, who don't speak another language other than my mother tongue, just try anyway, you know, just like make the effort anyway, and maybe something else will speak louder than like having these multilingual talents or skills?
Yeah, definitely. This is what I believe, because like, for me, the most important is to go to events, to meet people, talk to people, and you never know what kind of opportunities you will have. And, like, if you, make an application and you don't speak languages and you never meet this, like, person who makes the decision personally, like, this person would never get a chance to know how wonderful you are. And, like, you can learn the language skill later if it will be needed. So yes, it shouldn't stop you.
Do you feel like face-to-face networking is like really important here?
Yes, I believe so. And as an artist, and as an introvert, I have struggled with it quite a lot. And like when I first started to go out there to the Finnish art scene, it was very scary. And I remember that when I had my first group exhibition, I was like so shaking. I wanted to become a wallpaper. I didn't want to talk about my art. But with time and making effort, it's possible to learn the communication skill and to go out there and start networking, even though it can feel like intimidating. But you can do it, yes. Here, like I am doing the panel discussion, an introvert who like wasn't very skilled at communication before.
And now you're thriving. So in general, Anna, what do you feel might be the barriers for opportunities for international artists?
Well, I guess first and foremost, if you just arrive in Finland, you've mentioned information, where to find information, how to find information, is it available in other language than Finnish and Swedish? I would say when I first came here, it was 7 or 8 years ago, there was not. There's been a lot of growth in that area, I think, as more international people have sort of started to self-initiate, even if it's like Instagram accounts that gather open calls or gather events of like what is happening, bringing visibility, and so forth. So information, definitely a barrier. At HIAA, that's like one of the things that we try to support the artists with. I think it was like, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, we started doing yearly workshops on various topics, like practical topics, whether it's, for example, like grant writing or how to prepare for exhibitions, how to write an artist statement, these kind of things, or like how to apply to galleries. I don't remember, I think it was actually Globe Art Point that does the tax workshops, but they, for example, also are very good with those kind of things. So yeah, information. The other one, of course, is opportunities. So, and those two are kind of linked because, of course, you have to know about the opportunities in order to apply for them. That is also what we try to do at HIAA, where we provide opportunities for exhibitions and also for our members who are more in the design and craft community to sell at markets. I think the challenges with all of that are, for example, venues, a lack of affordable venues that are also like suitably located, let's say in Helsinki, and then of course funding. But funding is like a whole separate topic that probably we will also discuss.
Yeah, we can discuss it now. Actually, how accessible are the grants to international people who, let's say, have never written a grant before, or who, the grant system is often in Finnish, at least for certain organizations. There isn't an English translation, or there certainly isn't a translation beyond the 3 main languages of Finland. So, if you want, you can go into that a little bit deeper.
Well, I mean, I was definitely not familiar with this system when I came here. In the UK, my art was primarily commercial. I worked as an illustrator, and in general, like most of the art market things were commercial based. So my introduction to like the grant system has been just purely through HIAA and like HIAA's work to try to get funding that way. But in general, like I'm not sure kind of where this is going. I've recently been to an event organized by Aalto that discussed like funding for future, for culture things, and there the general consensus seems to be, or was, that basically like there needs to be a mind shift from trying to rely on public grants towards more like private funding, whether it's commercial, like sales-based, or just private funding. Like one of the speakers was an art patron or a philanthropist or whatever, and she talked about, you know, how, like, what she does to support various cultural projects.
What I'm hearing you saying is that, you know, rather than sort of having this like almost two-tier system where you're talking about like a grants funding for creative practice, or this like art market, like so either within or outside of Finland, that is maybe looking at like multiple ways that that money might be sort of generated and sort of support artist practice.
Well, yes, in general, I mean, my experience is that you need anyway multiple, like if you're gonna, you know, try to make a living as an artist, you need multiple income streams, and it might be like 5, 6 different income streams. So you have arts, original art sales, you might have like prints or other product sales, you might have workshops, you might have, you know, some work at a gallery or something like this, but it's, yeah, like it needs to come, and of course, yeah, if you manage to secure grant funding, but it needs to come then from multiple places.
Yeah, we need to wear a lot of hats, I think.
Yeah.
So in 2023, Frame's then CEO Raija Kolli wrote that internationalization does not only occur outside Finland's borders, but it is equally important to enable and secure the work of artists and other professionals in Finland as well. How relevant do you think this point of view is in 2026, Emma? Any ideas?
Very.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really enjoy, one of the events that we do at HIAP that I really, really enjoy is our Open Studios event. It happens 3 times a year at the end of the artist. We have this 3-month artist residency program. And it's a big celebration moment. And the reason why I really enjoy it, because I've done Open Studios in other organisations that I've worked in, but none of them have been as fun as this day. And one of the reasons why I enjoy it so much is a lot of the audiences who come, they're very mixed. It's not only the arts crowd. There's people who live on the island. There's lots of tourists, actually, because Suomenlinna has like a massive tourist destination. And something that I enjoy a lot is the curiosity. So especially from the Finnish audiences, because a lot of the Finnish audiences who come to stuff at HIAP, they'll ask me, but why do these artists want to be here? Like very confused. Why do these international artists want to be? What's so great about Finland? Like, why would they want to come? And they ask a lot of questions about the artists' perspectives on Finland and their experiences here. And there's not a huge amount of opportunities, actually, I think, for people who've lived in Finland their whole lives to really hear from international points of view or perspectives of the place that they were born and that they live. And it's a really useful dialogue, actually, to have in terms of the way in which people who were not born in Finland might look at it or view it. And I see it happening there and then in that moment. And sometimes there's confusion, and then by the end of it, there's a lot of excitement. But I say all of that because the reality is that in terms of thinking about like internationalism and internationalization, a huge amount of the focus when it comes to the Finnish art scene is about export. So how do we export as much Finnish arts product as possible to different international markets? And I think that because the landscape here has changed so much in the last 15 to 20 years, that people are really trying to think now about what does international mean today, and how do we think about international from the point of view of what we already have as well. And that's a really great opportunity to try and grab hold of. And I think there is a demand, actually, when it comes to audiences here for the work of international artists who are living and working here, who've kind of made that commitment to being in Helsinki or Finland more broadly. And I might just be being incredibly naive and optimistic about it, but I see it happening at our events. So I feel like there's a big power in that encounter that takes place. And I can also see now that many organisations are doing these 5-year strategies at the moment and are kind of publishing them and talking about the next 5 years in Finland and doing these workshops. And you can hear it in the discussions and in the strategies themselves that these organisations like HIAP, like Frame, that were set up to think about internationalisation, which is such a funny word, but that's another conversation. things have changed a lot, actually, when the kind of contemporary art scene, especially in Finland, is thinking about what does it mean to be international. And Helsinki is already an incredibly international city. So there's a really unique energy in that I think we can really capture in the way that we think about new funding programs or the way in which that we try and kind of communicate what Finland is all about externally as well.
So what I'm hearing is that it's like complicating the issue a little bit more. So rather than thinking there's artists that make in Finland that export, or there's international artists that are coming in and they're, maybe either exhibiting here or they're going residency programs, but actually trying to complicate what's happening in here in that there is, both of internal looking and external looking is happening in the creative field. Is this what we're saying? So trying to make it more complex.
Yeah, but also just in terms of trying to pull out what the kind of unique opportunity might be as an international artist living here. I sit on a lot of jury panels and I chair a lot of jury panels, especially for like at HIAP we have these international exchanges where we receive an artist from somewhere and we send an artist somewhere. And something that happens quite often in those panels is that, especially for non-Finland-based jury members, get really surprised by how many applications there are from artists who've recently relocated, for example, to Finland, and who are not Finnish. So, and there's like a real interest actually, because those applications, they really do stand out, because a lot of the time, the way in which you can talk about why you want to work internationally when you are someone who is already international in that sense is very different. So there's a real opportunity within the applications that you're making to really talk about that, the perspective that you have and how that might translate then to, for example, doing international residency in another place and then complicating that view even more. At this time of lots of geopolitical uncertainty and challenge, actually there's a view and a voice and a lens in which you can apply to these contexts that's very special. So I think what I'm trying to say is that there's something to be harnessed there, actually, rather than. And I guess I'm not as connected in many ways to the Finnish grant system, things like that. So I'm not saying that this is the approach to take in that context. But when thinking about taking your work outside of Finland, actually, there's something really unique to be able to communicate to the people who you might want to talk to in that sense.
Yeah, so it does actually sound like if the organisations and the associations and the arts organisations that are working here, if they're thinking more about what kind of opportunities can be created in Finland for people from multiple backgrounds all together, sort of in the soup of creating, then this is something that I could only imagine that the grant system will also follow, because this is then the organisations are sort of leading the way in this complicating.
Well, I hope so, because my understanding of it, and I might be wrong here, but my understanding is that a lot of these grant systems haven't been updated since the 70s. So it's about time, really, that they did start to relook at what the needs might be from the people who are applying for the grants in a slightly different way. And obviously, there's all of this political narrative right now about austerity measures and the austerity politics that come with that. Coming from a context where it's been austerity for 20 years now, it feels very familiar. And so this idea of international working, sometimes it comes from a place of economic need. So people are kind of looking at where they're living and going, there aren't enough opportunities for me here. I'm going to start thinking about working internationally. And I suppose what I'm trying to say is that is certainly one reason to think about international working, but actually it needs to be a dialogue and it needs to be a relationship. It can't just be about this export idea of just taking your work to different places, because actually what people who are, for example, running residencies or programming international festivals, what they want from international artists is to see how you would apply your lens and your practice to that place. So this is where the kind of unique element of already having gone through an experience of relocation or embedding yourself in a new place can be very helpful, because it's a powerful skill set. It's not as if it's just some, you have to learn some really hardcore skills in order to be able to do that. So this is something to kind of really champion whenever you're looking at making applications internationally, for example.
Yeah, okay. So just elaborating on that a little bit. So is your organisation working on projects specifically with the hopes of bolstering international voices, both for those living in Finland and outside? And I know you've said a little bit about them, but if there's anything specifically that you'd like to discuss about your projects?
We, like I mentioned at the beginning, we support about 50 to 75 artists a year, depending on what funding we have in place at that time. I guess the unique thing about HIAP is that if you are a Finland-based artist and you come to HIAP, you're immediately part of a very international community in the sense of we've got artists coming from all around the world and curators from all around the world living and working there. So for us, actually, the hardest thing in delivering that program is trying to build these opportunities for networking and community within it in a way that feels like very genuine and not too structured, because people make these very strong bonds and connections because you're living in this quite intense context. But there are a number of those opportunities which are just for Finland-based artists. So there's an 11-month residency program that you can apply for, where you'd get the studio and the living space on Suomenlinna for just under a year. That next call out will come out in June. We also have these shorter term residencies called the workspace residencies, and these happen between January to March every year. These again are for Finland-based artists, and you can use our gallery space to test things out and try out new things. It's not about producing an exhibition, it's just about we turn the gallery into a studio in effect. And again, you get the apartment, so you can have the experience of living within the residency community and taking part of all of the other activities that we do. So they're like two very specific things, and then we'll also have these thematic call-outs each year depending on the different projects and programs that we've been developing, like the learning materials, which I mentioned earlier, that will have focused residencies for Finland-based artists too. But beyond that, events like the Open Studios and other exhibition openings that we do, they're always really about getting lots of different people together and trying to kind of build this international community specifically.
Yeah, I can see the kind of work that HIAP does is very much based on trying to situate artists in a very particular place and then seeing what happens when they start to flourish there. It's a really wonderful program for that. How might international artists challenge existing norms and boundaries that could create more accessibility for all? Veronika, have you got any thoughts on that one?
Could you please repeat the question?
Of course. How might international artists challenge existing norms and boundaries? So basically, these barriers, how might we navigate the barriers that we've discussed earlier?
Well, I believe that it's important to do what feels right for you to do, even if it seems different. It seems that nobody else is doing it. You should trust your gut, because different is good. Yeah. Do other panelists have something to add?
I agree. I think self-initiated projects are a very important part if you want to kind of get ahead or get noticed here. So, for example, a lot of international artists, they have a lot of passion, very kind of driven. And so there's a lot of exhibitions that are self-initiated, you can find the space yourself, you can find other artists that want to join you, you can just organize it yourself, which does also provide valuable experience and also other skills for future. So that's what I would say is always look for opportunities for self-initiated projects as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I have noticed a lot of interest from international people living in Finland, and as well as Finnish people. They really want to see something new, and it could be negative, it could be positive, just something that causes person to rethink, causes person to be more open-minded, or to emotionally connect. Yeah, it's very important to like trust your gut.
In your opinion, how might the effects of cross-cultural connections be sustained and bolstered, like beyond HIAP's programming? Do you have any advice for artists that where cross-cultural connections might be sustained?
Cross-cultural. Sorry, could you?
So that, thinking about multicultural, so that not just a culture that you're familiar with, but where we're thinking about cultures that we would be very unfamiliar with, let's say, and like how those connections can be bolstered here, because there is this sort of there can be this feeling of like needing to like assimilate into Finnish culture or into like the Finnish art scene as it is, and how can we think about ways where actually cross-cultural collaborations might be able to sort of like diversify that a little bit, so we're not having to sort of like fit in, but we're actually having like finding our own standing or our own voice being here with our own sort of cultural background.
The assimilation side of things, I guess I just want to start off by saying I know that it's also like a bit of a survival strategy as well. So like I don't, it's all about personal choice. In terms of like just being yourself and who you are in all those ways. I remember when I first moved here, one of the things I really struggled with was I felt like I had to really like rein my personality in. So there was this one encounter in like a networking event with someone where I realized that because they took like a physical step back from me, I was being way too like forward, and I had this like a crisis in the first 3 months of feeling like or maybe I need to kind of shrink my loudness, or like I'll never forget the first time my dad came to visit me and he was on a tram and he was being really loud and I was like, shh. But I realized afterwards that actually I realize now that in many ways there are things that you can do as someone who is not of this culture to encourage people who are of this culture to also have a different experience or have a different time, and actually that's a really positive thing. So it's I think that some assimilation is not bad in the sense of you're trying to like reach out and build new relationships, and you are in a new place and it will have different ways of being and doing things, and that might change you, but in a lot of ways maybe some of the assumptions that can be made when you first arrive somewhere about how people are receiving you or what their perspective of you might be are also based on you not quite understanding that culture or the way that people are. So I don't know if that answers your question about the cross-cultural thing, but what I thought you meant when you first asked me the question was about like sustaining like cross-cultural collaborations in the sense of like if you are working across cultures in Finland and outside of it, something that I notice quite a lot when people have a very diverse career as an artist or are working internationally quite often is that the relationships that they have with different international organizations or artists that are their collaborators, they're not always about receiving something, but also about giving something. And so one of the things that I've always felt coming from this point of view of working internationally is it's really helpful to think about, to be specific, first of all, like about why are you applying for this grant? Why are you applying for this residency? Are you just applying for everything? And maybe like try to be more focused would be a useful strategy sometimes. But secondly, as well as receiving something from this encounter, what are you also giving to it? And how does it become about that sort of relationship as opposed to it only being about you gaining from it? What are you also giving back and what are you leaving when finish?
That's a really wonderful point. I really like that idea of exchange and how, like, when we're approaching anything in our lives, I suppose, the idea of, like, it isn't just about what we're gaining, you know, and that the exchange is actually where, like, the complications get, like, more interesting and where the collaborations can get, like, more deep.
Yeah, because, for example, when international artists are coming to Finland, one of the things that we look at a lot when they're making the application, and this will happen in any context that's where people are reviewing these applications, is you're looking at things, for example, like from an ethical point of view in terms of voyeurism, like why does this person want to come here, and do they have a perspective of this place that's real and genuine, or is it because, you know, for example, at HIAP, we get a huge amount of applications from artists who want to work with Sami cultures, and so we have to be really, really careful, like why do they want to do that? And also, what is this encounter going to be? What is the give and take? What is the exchange? And that goes for any kind of community-based work, I think. But also the reality of international working often is that you are going somewhere and then you are leaving it. So thinking about this idea of what are you leaving behind, and that can be encounters, it can be knowledge, it doesn't have to be art, anything. And if you can communicate that to the person that's reading this application or who you're contacting on email, it will immediately feel more genuine, rather than a pitch, which is something that can have less kind of meaning or sensitivity to it that people are often looking for.
Yeah, these are really great points about like how to be more conscientious and how we interact with others and how to interact with marginalized groups or how we interact with more vulnerable peoples, and sort of like looking at our authenticness when we're coming to like how we create and how we collaborate, you know. Really nice points. Thank you for sharing that. How does one organise a platform to showcase work if a newcomer to the country? We're thinking about really practical answers here now about for people who are new to the art scene in Finland. So Veronika, if you'd like to answer that question.
Yeah, sure. As a recent or relatively recent newcomer, the first thing that I did was to go to one of the events from HIAA. And there I was just coming to artists and trying to find the connection and trying to ask some questions. And the HIAA community has been so helpful. So I advise everybody to just join some international community. And I'm sure you will find valuable advice from there. And you should always go to every workshop they provide. Because even if you feel you know everything, you don't know. So just come.
Thank you so much for sharing. And where can we find practical information then on things like, for example, grant writing or approaching galleries or art organizations or portfolio advice, Anna?
Yeah, I can answer that. I mean, I think I've mentioned it already before that HIAA does organize several of these kind of workshops every year. And also, as I said, Globe Art Point organizes those kind of workshops. If you're looking for something a bit more like in terms of entrepreneurship or business, then like Business Helsinki also does some of these. But just to add to what Veronika said, like going to joining an artist association is definitely a good first step. And besides here, there's like quite a lot of other ones in Finland, and also specific ones for the type of art that you do. So, for example, if you're a ceramic artist, if you are a graphic artist, if you're an illustrator, there's associations that are specific to those art forms. But in addition, for example, I mentioned, self-initiating. There's many places that if you wanted to have an exhibition, you could try to approach them yourself. And these are like non-traditional, so not galleries necessarily, but there's opportunities in libraries, in a lot of cafes, bars. If you walk around the center of Helsinki, you will see, art being exhibited in a lot of the places like that. So it's always worthwhile sort of keeping an eye out and keeping a list I kind of wish there was actually like a organized list that can be shared of all the like different businesses and venues that are open to collaborating with artists. I think that may be like a project to consider.
If I'm honest, I had started that project
Well,
last year, and
that
document is half finished, and like
Perfect.
in HIAA's like filing system. So
Okay.
maybe something that can be like worked on. Hopefully with a little bit more gusto. I was able to give it because there is a lot. There's actually a lot of. There's a lot of places to exhibit. There's a lot of organisations that are very supportive. There's a huge amount of let's say like exhibition venues or events venues that are very supportive of artists that are up and coming, artists that are like beginning their career, or artists that are sort of further along in their career, that unless you know to ask them, then it can be quite difficult to know, okay, where do I go to, for example, find, an exhibition space that's particularly supportive to international artists, or particularly supportive to people who are going entry level. And so this information, as I was saying earlier, it's not always easy to get this information, because information doesn't flow easily. Here it's just like a cultural difference. And so there are places, as you're mentioning, like Globe Art Point and HIAA and other organizations that where the whole point of it is that information is flowing, and that it can be a hub for people to ask questions and to have, for example, portfolio reviews, or to have, for example, like workshops on taxation, or taxation is obviously very complicated here, and like this kind of support is really needed, and it's out there. And I think this is why I'm like, this question is really important, is because there are places to go. Like, we're not going to be able to answer every question here today, but what we can do is kind of go like, there are places that you can ask these questions.
Yes, and like knowing what is happening and when it is happening, like that is very important, but it can also be very challenging, like knowing when the open calls are happening, knowing which places you can contact, and so forth. I would also say that when we talked about face-to-face networking, it's always a good idea to look for like other like cross-industry places to network, so that you're not necessarily just going to like artist networking events where you're going to network with other artists. But for example, when I first came here, I went to a lot of networking events for like entrepreneurs, like international entrepreneurs, small businesses, and that actually gave me a lot of like unexpected opportunities for work in the beginning, and also meeting people who like later became collectors of my art and so forth. So yeah, sometimes you don't expect like where you find those opportunities.
Yeah. And I think that other people have information that they are so willing to share. And, this is why, as you were suggesting, like having communities of artists that are like practicing artists in town, but also having organizations where, there's like collaborations happening, and like on a level like beyond individual artists, that there's never harm in asking questions of people. Like, this is what I'm noticing most about the art world here, is that people are very willing to help. They're very willing to share information, and sometimes it can be a bit intimidating to email, let's say, the director of HIAP, but I'm a very warm person and somebody who's very willing to share information for sure. Yeah.
Yes, and the thing I love about Finland is that lots of organisations still have their email addresses on their websites, which is not the case in the UK anymore, actually. So they are actually you can actually contact the person. And something that, just building on what you were saying about like outside of arts network specifically, something that I think I can see happening in some instances here, but maybe not as much as it could, is because there are lots of these existing structures like associations, open calls and things like that. And, I joke about this, but it's kind of true. I feel like Finland culturally can often be a very like rules-based or permission-based society. And one of the impacts of that, I think, is that we don't then just go ahead and just ask for something. We kind of wait for these open calls or this instruction sheet on how to ask. So I think more and more, actually, it's great to just walk into somewhere and just ask, can I do something here? Or like, how do I do something here? And, you know, contact people who you admire and ask them for their advice. It doesn't happen as often as it could, actually. And genuinely, people, I think, like to be asked these things because it's quite a compliment that you would care about their opinion. So it's a good thing to do. Not everyone will respond, but I think it's a good way, actually, to get out there and go forward on your own terms rather than just constantly waiting for these different deadlines to appear.
Yeah. Do you guys have any final thoughts you'd like to share? We're coming to the end of the panel discussion now. So if you'd like to share any other advice or any other thoughts that have come to mind that we haven't come across yet, you're very welcome.
I think we've discussed, like, there's a lot of good work happening between associations, organizations, and individual artists in trying to create more visibility for international art voices. I think my personal kind of wish is I wish it was somehow more cohesive, so that there's not a lot of like just kind of individual efforts happening in different places, and you know the Kama artist needs to kind of go and find them all out and try to navigate them and figure out what is best for them. So I kind of wish there was maybe something like more of like a cultural hub, like a central cultural hub present, for example, established in Helsinki. Because there is things like this in other cities, even in nearby countries, you know, that exist. Like when I go to Tallinn, for example, I know exactly where to go to find, you know, the exhibitions and the you know, the workshops and the craft studios. But I feel like in Helsinki, I actually, you know, a lot of times, like, it's not the top of my head. It's same, like, even when tourists would come here, like, where do they go? Like, if they want to experience, like, outside of the museums, you know, if they want to experience the local design scene, the local art scene, like, where do they go? So, I mean, I don't know, like, I recently was at an event where they were discussing this new museum that is planned for the South Harbour in Helsinki, the Design and Architecture Museum. You know, the speaker was the new director of this museum, so she was very kind of passionate about like what it could become, and the fact that, you know, that they want to build like a whole ecosystem around it, and that there might be spaces for actual like other artist happenings, others for small businesses, you know, like they want to make it into a kind of cultural hub. So I'm sort of looking forward to see like where this goes and if it actually kind of can become something like that.
Yeah, it feels like these sort of information hubs are happening quite naturally because this is what people need. And then what we're saying is like maybe formalizing that a little bit in one space. Yeah, that makes sense. I can see how that is really helpful. Any other thoughts you guys would like to share?
I do wish that Finland will have this great cultural hub where everybody is collaborating, everybody is united, and I really feel there is a need for it. From my experience, people are willing to connect, but sometimes they don't know how to start. So there is this desire, there is this need for collaboration, and let's just keep up like exploring opportunities, uniting, collaborating, especially like connecting with also like, or as you have mentioned, assimilating a little bit more to the like Finnish art market, to the Finnish art scene. Like it's nice to have international community here, but it's also very important to like make one big cultural hub, including the Finnish artists, Finnish art professionals as well.
Yeah, I guess there's, for me, the information point is great, but also it can feel like there's so many opportunities actually. Like, you know, there's so many open calls, there's so many like things that you can apply to, or you can ask to be part of. And I guess for me, the thing that I think about quite a lot is just be really intentional about what you want to put your energy and effort into, because writing all of these things and proposing all of these things, you know, is unpaid labor first and foremost. And actually, like something that I notice is that people that kind of can spread themselves quite thinly quite often in terms of the way in which you might approach trying to sustain your work or get some funding or get some new partnerships. So I think it makes for stronger outcomes, actually, if you can be really focused and intentional on what you want to put your energy and your effort into. And also maybe it's a bit better for the old mindset as well.
Yeah. I think it can be quite a lot to spread yourself thin. You know, it's quite exhausting to have your head in too many pies. Yeah. Thank you so much. This ends the discussion for now. Just want to say a huge thank you to HIAA for organising the Talk and Grow for Creatives event, and Lucan for hosting it, and a massive thank you to our panellists, Emma, Veronika and Anna, for the intriguing and very informative discussion. At this point, we're going to end the recording and the live streaming, and then there'll be the Q&A right afterwards. So thank you everybody for joining for now.